Good morning. This week we're working on W. Got the 4 lines. Remember, you go down, up, W. And who is this animal that we've got? Willy Weasel. Willy Weasel has the wiggly spine, remember? And so we're going to take our hands and we're going to go whoa, whoa, whoa. Willy Weasel is wiggly, wiggly, wiggly. So, one of my favorite W books is Where the Wild Things Are. It is an award winner, and the man who wrote the book, who is the author, and he also illustrated the book, which means he drew the pictures. And we've talked about that before, but I thought I would just mention it again. Remember, we talk about who the author is, the person who writes the story, and the illustrator is the person who draws the pictures. And so this is one of my favorite books, and I'm sure most of you have heard this one before. I like to sometimes do Where the Wild Things Are and grow a plant at this time of year. And since you're not in class, maybe you guys can maybe do a small garden, or maybe plant some cute little flowers for your mom. But I like to do Where the Wild Things Are because plants are wild things. So are you ready? Do you got all your wiggles out? And are you ready to listen? This is a story about Max. So let's listen. This night, Max wore his wolf suit and made mischief of one kind. There's Max, and he's got his mischief going on. And another. What is Max up to? His mother called him Wild Thing, and Max said, "I'll eat you up." And so he was sent to bed without eating anything. Look at his grumpy face. That very night, in Max's room, a forest began to grow. And grew. And grew until his ceiling hung with vines and the walls became the world all around him. And an ocean began tumbling by his private boat for a private boat for Max, and he sailed off through night and day. And in and out of weeks and almost over a year to where the wild things are. Look at that right there. Looks pretty wild to me. And when he came to the place where the wild things are, they roared their terrible roars and gnashed their terrible, terrible teeth. And they rolled their terrible eyes and they showed their terrible, terrible claws. Can you show your terrible claws and roar? Roar! Good roaring. Till Max said, "Be still!" And he tamed them with his magic trick. And staring into all of their yellow eyes without blinking once. And they were frightened, and they called him the most wild thing of all. Look at their faces. They look very terribly scared. And their yellow eyes are wide. Can you make your eyes wide? Wide. And they made him king of all the wild things. There he is, king. How do we know he's a king? He's got his crown. And now, cried Max, let the wild rumpus start. There's Max. And there they are, wild rumpusing. They're dancing under the big moon there. See that? Can you rumpus about? Roar! Rumpusing about would be dance. See if you can stand up and dance a little bit with the wild things. Very good, wild things. Now, see if you can hang from the trees. Pretend you're sitting in your chair, or stand up and pretend you're hanging from the trees. Hang out from those trees like you are a wild thing. And then march around your table. March, march, march. March, march, march. March, march, march. March, march, march. You're being wild things. Now stop. Be like Max. Stop. Max said, and he sent the wild things all off to bed without any supper. And Max, the king of all the wild beasts, was lonely, and he wanted to be with someone who loved him best of all. Here he is sitting in his little tent. Then all around from far away across the world, he smelled something good to eat. Sniff the air. Do you smell something yummy? And so he gave up being king of where the wild things are. But all of the wild things cried, "Oh, please, oh, please, oh, please don't go. We'll eat you up. We love you so." But Max said no. The wild things roared their terrible roars, roar, and gnashed their terrible teeth, and rolled their terrible eyes and showed their terrible claws. Roll your eyes and show your claws. But Max stepped into his private boat, and he waved goodbye. And Max sailed back over a year, and in and out of weeks, and through the day. And into the night of his very own room, where he found his supper waiting for him. Is that maybe what he smelled? And his supper was still hot. Have you ever been like Max and used your imagination and thought that you have traveled to a far, far place? That's what Max did here in this book, isn't it? He used his imagination. Imagination is an important thing to use. So that was one of my favorite books that begins with W. Where, and wild. So hopefully you are getting outside and enjoying the weather. Hopefully you are getting along with your mom and your brothers and your sisters, or if you don't have brothers and sisters, maybe you're getting along with, maybe you could draw a picture for your grandma and send it to her. Maybe you could draw a picture using your imagination like the wild things are. Anyways, I hope you're having fun, and that was a W word. And we will talk with you later. Bye-bye.